All right. Axel, go ahead and unmute yourself. Hax, go ahead and unmute yourself. We're going to get this officially going, and I must unmute myself as well. Axel, unmute yourself. Hax, unmute yourself, and we're ready to go, baby. Seal your tagline.
Let's do it.
All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Before the Dust Settles Special Edition Watchmen. We are here with W.Axel Foley from Daily DVR Brings You Watchmen, along with, you can't see him, but you can hear him, that iconic voice. Say hello, Hax Dogma.
Hey, everybody.
All right, so we're going to be talking about episode 6 of Watchmen. Let us know about the audio and so forth. If I'm screaming over everybody more than usual, let me know, because that's actually not on purpose. I will lower my mic. But we're going to jump into this. We'll have any type of questions can be answered. We have the magnificent live chat going on. Thank you, Alicia Kingston. We have podcast Winterfell, which is actually you, Axel, and James, and as well as John here, and many more to come. So quite the episode. I'm going to give it off to you first, Axel, and then Hax, just to say overall feelings about it.
Wow, man. I was really blown away. I thought once again that Damon and crew have found a way to blend a deep mythology with an emotional and historically resonant story. I thought it was fantastic. It was actually a lot more coherent than I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to have a lot more time jumping, like kind of be confused as to what was happening. But it was really a straight story. I love the black and white, all the piano and jazz music, and they don't kick in with the Reznor stuff until like the very end when you see him in the wheelchair just before he mesmerizes Judd. I thought it was, there's so much to talk about. I don't know where to begin, because it's a lot of resonant stuff. It's a lot of deep stuff. And actually, in a way, I thought we'd be talking more about like mythological stuff and, like Dr. Manhattan and all this kind of stuff. And there is a fair amount of that, but it's really a one-man story here, and it's Will's story.
Yeah, I'm going to kick it over to you, Hax. I agree with that sentiment. This is the emotional spine of the story at its very base. This is, why do you put on a mask? What is the folly of that? What is the advantageous aspects of that? And I think it definitely is left me with a lot of deep, thought-provoking insights and thoughts. Hax, take it away. What did you take away from this?
Well, I mean, if anything, it just proved that the showrunners are incredible writers. Cinematography, editing, literally everything. Every transition is like a masterful transition that they've put so much thought into. And all throughout this episode and episodes before, but really in this episode, it was just, they put everything into this in terms of editing, and it was so well done. The writing, when they're sitting in the bed, Captain Metropolis and Hooded Justice, and he's talking about keeping his identity hidden because he's black, when you thought like the whole buildup was like as if he was trying to hide that he was gay, and it was like even less or more depraved than that. And I mean, the way they wrote that scene stands out probably more than anything, even more than the whole reveal of Hooded Justice, just because it was so well done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've been saying this since the beginning, is it's going to put the shoe on the other foot, and it should do what this episode has done to me, make me question certain aspects of Hooded Justice's life, certain aspects of why putting on the mask. And let's start with American Horror Story. This is a conversation I had on an earlier stream on Johnny B. Crazy's channel. House of Conqueror. And it was about with Alicia Kingston, who is currently with us, a great content creator, and provides great insight. We were kind of going back and forth about what the goal of that series is. And I'm going to take that to Axel first. And knowing what we know now, in seeing the depiction of Metropolis in Hooded Justice, what is the goal, in your opinion, first to you, Axel, and then to you, Hax, about American Hero Story? I have Horror Story in my notes, just a fun fact. I don't know if I said it, but I got it.
I was like, do I correct him or no?
Did I say it?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay. All right.
It's interesting. I was thinking about the goal of the show in universe, or the goal of the show within our understanding of Watchmen, a television show.
In universe for this one.
Well, I think from the Peaky stuff, we're given a point of view that this is like a VH1 behind the music, that it's for people who actually appreciate the history of hooded heroes. They're telling a bastardized version based on the most popular kind of theories or interpretations of things. And I think, though, when you put it against what the truth was, it's actually, I mean, of course, there's a huge truth missing, which that he was black. But it's interesting that the gay part is what is latched onto and pushed in the American Hero Story. And of course, the subversion that we see within their relationship that Hax mentioned, the way that he mesmerizes him, right? Because so much of this, I just kept on hearing like Chuck D in my head and Flava Flav going, confusion. It was just like, that's what this was all about, right?
Yeah.
Like the trickery. And now I'm hearing that song in my head. And I think that American Hero Story in universe provides a kind, basically what I said. I think that Petey describes it in the Peteypedia stuff. It's like a VH1 behind the music, and it just kind of giving the people what they want, what they've heard, without any real analysis of why people may have acted the way they did. And it takes away the agency, obviously, of Hooded Justice. And I think in the way that they're making him they start out with saying that he wasn't the German guy, but the feeling is that they'll end up saying he was. So that's even more of a perversion.
Yeah, he's unable to act out justice in being a African American, so he puts on the mask to act out justice, but he also acts out on desires and so forth. Hax, go ahead.
I think the biggest thing for me is like from the perspective of this show being created for a reason other than the entertainment or storytelling of what happened or what could have happened with this crew, the Minutemen. So, and like, if there is an organization putting this on and showing these stories for a particular reason, it could stand that. Like at the start of the show, I thought that maybe this was a part of a campaign to reignite the vigilante story, right? Like we'll make people want to be vigilantes, and I think that it still could be that in light of this episode. But last episode, when it was revealed that Captain Metropolis and Hooded Justice were gay, the way that it felt, it was like as if it was a derogatory claim, as if it was like doing it to slander their story, and that made me think that maybe they were doing this to defame these superheroes. So all of that is, the hypothetical that this actually matters and that there is a organization running it for a particular purpose. I do find it really interesting that they got wrong that he was a black man, but got right that he was a gay man. And is that just shot in the dark? They got it right, or somehow new, right? And I bring that up because like Metropolis wanted, he didn't care about people knowing he's a gay man. He was a gay man. And like, he probably cared, to the extent that we saw like him hiding it. Right. But like in terms of, revealing someone's identity, like if it was him or knowledge that he had or records that he kept, discovered by this organization, like I could see, him writing down that he was a lover or maybe a note between them, but leaving out the fact that he was black because Captain Metropolis perhaps feared what other people would think that, if he was a gay man, but not only that, but a gay man that slept with black people.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're going to tell the heroic story about this brave homosexual man, but it can't yet be. It still shows the prejudice because it can't be a brave African-American gay man, right? In American hero story. They choose to make the catalyst about the sexuality, not about the race. The race is like a step too far, I guess, for them still.
Yeah, and I forgot about the beginning when I was saying they might show that he's the German guy. I think that Hax was going to say, I forget that we see his face, what American Hero story is saying. We see that actor and he takes off the hood. But I'm the reason why they know in that story that he's gay, and that was true, but they don't know that he's black. I think there's meta reasons for it, but within the confines of the story, it may have to do with the beginning scene, with the opening scene, yes, where they say that Captain Metropolis was a lover, of J. Edgar Hoover. Right? So that got
I agree.
Out. So I think it might just be that got out, but he never betrayed. It may be a thing that he never betrayed hooded justice in what his identity was, or it could also just be, and I think that's more resonant for the meta reasons, is that he did not want people to know that the original hooded hero was a black man, because that's the mesmerizing.
Yeah.
So that's just what it's about. It's taking power away. And it's not allowing a person to have power. And I think that plays out throughout the story, obviously. And I think it may be that Captain Metropolis was Judd. They were serving the same purpose. Yeah, he wasn't like the worst guy in the world. And maybe he wasn't wearing the hood and killing people every day. But he was maintaining this status quo. And once they knew and figured out who Will was, they realized perhaps they weren't going to be able to kill him. They would have to, it would actually benefit them to subdue him. So I have an idea that Metropolis was working with, what was the guy's name? Fred?
Yeah.
With Fred, that's the power structure, that they were maintaining that because it served them.
Well, they seem to share the same ideology with the burning of the Jewish store and then the propaganda that we see. We see that a common theme throughout this is uniform changes you, make sure it changes you for the better, right? So we have to observe how the uniform,
Does it? I don't know. Is that possible with humans?
well, that's the thing. How does putting on the mask change Will? It changes him in a number of different ways. It changes him. So it's the outcome of that, and we see both the folly in the actual positive side of putting on that mask, and we do see how he comes, at least in my opinion, to the conclusion that it's not good to wear that mask because, you know, he's still keeping the status quo. By Metropolis, it's total this capitalistic agenda when, you know, you see them everything from the, even at the very beginning when they mentioned nostalgia medicine, that the dementia patients wasn't a big enough market. And we also, I just want to take a quick note here to say that Laurie also is dismissing proper procedure, right? And we see this time and time again. So it's kind of like the juxtaposition between like then wearing the mask and now wearing the mask, what it's become, like how it's almost when you start a union to fix something, right? Like workers' rights, and then something becomes so powerful, it starts to, you know, do one thing or another. It's arguable. It's not the best metaphor, but it seems like it's gone to the total opposite direction, that they started it because they needed to wear a mask to be able to do what was just and be able to do it without people judging them by who they were, what they look like. And now we have the complete opposite with the dismissal of human rights and justice, due process and so forth, a lot of stuff like that. But the uniform changes Will in what way do you think, Hax?
Well, so I actually wouldn't say that it changes him, you know, because like I think that the you know, the comparison between then and now, and you know, how Agent Blake is really treating her, like I think that yes, that's what you said is correct, but also kind of just the overall climate, right? Because we see that, you know, people are being brought in and tortured and beaten to, you know, blood runs in the water just because they're suspected of being, you know, a terrorist without any real purpose or evidence. And, you know, overall, just like that, speaking to the climate of the power in the executive branch, you know, across the board. But the other part of that with, you know, changing him in terms of putting on a uniform, like she said it, like that anger has always been in him. Now we don't get evidence of that or you know, really see that anger manifest until she provokes it to the point where, you know, she's like, hey, you're angry, you're angry, you're angry. He's like, chill, I'm not angry. And then, you know, he needs to fucking step up and beat the shit out of people. And I mean, yeah, like in that point, it's like, yeah, I'm fucking angry, you know, and I'm about to do something with it. It's like that it becomes the good thing. So like the uniform probably gives him the confidence to do so, knowing that, you know, he can serve justice without color being associated to it. And one more thing that I wanted to touch on previously is that in terms of like taking the uniform on and off, I wish he would have like gone full Inglorious Bastards and just like carved into their forehead, you know, Nazi, so that he couldn't take off the uniform. Like,
well, we see, okay, so after Will is beaten and we see the first time he puts on a mask, it is during his faux execution per se, you know, in no mean do I mean faux by not painful, terrible torture. He puts on the mask and we see through his perspective, excellent cinematic, you know, and thematic value right there. Like, as you stated before, we see through the mask for the first time and it's him being strung up and it's horribly, just painful and traumatic for him. And then we see him be let down and then he literally has his hands tied, right? As he's walking through the streets and he sees crime with his literal hands tied.
Yeah.
And what does he do? He changes it to a benefit. He flips it and he puts on the mask that he once experienced that pain, and he finds power in ambiguity. I think this is so much of an argument, and I'll be the first person to admit I'm conflicted here, between the benefits of knowing and experiencing your past, because we see how that anger drives him to do things that might be, you know, borderline unethical, and we see how it affects him, but also the benefit of him being able to carry out justice in the way that he does. So there's pros and cons to both sides, but his hands are tied. He puts on the mask and he's able to save the Caucasian female and male, and then he is reported about. So what does that say about, in this society, we report about this, like the speculation about who this hero is. They wouldn't be reporting about it if it was an African American, I guess, in this time that would have done it. I find it to be such a juxtaposition and very conflicting. I feel it's doing what it's supposed to do. We're supposed to be like, okay, so wearing a mask, it's got its cons, got its pros. All right, knowing everything about your past and experiencing it, got its pros, got its cons. Because I mean, do you guys think that do you think that's an accurate assessment there? I think there's ample proof for there's an issue with both. They both have their positive and their negative effects on Will.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the end, though, he is he's wearing the clothes of the oppressor, and that is the, he makes that's the compromise that he makes, and he thinks he needs to do that. What happens if he didn't do that? What happens if when Metropolis came to him, and when they were laying there in bed, he said, you have to hide. Oh, you have to hide from them. It's not a big deal. But he said, no, I'm not going to do that. As a matter of fact, I don't even want to, I want to wear less of a mask or something. If he had stood up, I had the idea early on, and I was sad to see it didn't play out, but it made it resonant for talking about it tonight, was that the idea that the whole, everybody, it was going to turn out that he wasn't really Hooded Justice. He was like Hooded Justice 1, and there was like an all-black hero team.
Oh, wow.
That would have been, to me, the ultimate in hiding the real true history. Now, they did that, but look how they turned it. And they showed of how people, this is an ongoing conversation in many communities in America and all over the world, and has been throughout history, is how do you deal with the oppressor? Do you compromise with them? Do you wear their clothes and act like them and talk like them? Or do you stay true only to your own truth?
More damage within type of deal, right?
What's that?
You can cause more damage within.
Right. Well, exactly. That's the point, is what can you get for that compromise? And I think that's where the mesmerizing stuff comes in, right? Which is that has to be exactly what you're talking about, Justin, which is working within, but never trusting.
Yes.
Right? Never not sleeping with the enemy as he was doing, and being seduced by this white man. I'm interested. The one thing that bothered me about this episode is because I was like, I wish the mesmerizing thing, I wish we had found out, because when he takes those jewels and he takes the camera, I knew what he was up to, right? He was like, I'm going to use the tools against them. And my question is, how long did he continue to do that? When he sees his son putting on the white face, right? So he can pass. And he's horrified by it. And as I think anyone, as soon as you saw him doing it and the wife doing it, I was like, oh, this is horrible, right? Like, you shouldn't be doing this. There's no advantage to this.
He's cloaking who he truly is in order to carry out justice. And it's that sacrifice that is so detrimental, and it's not in line with progress overall. What do you think Lori would say? What do you think Angela or Gina is going to say now that Sister Night, when she wakes up? How do you think she's going to feel about wearing a mask, Hax?
Oh man, I mean, I think it comes out of necessity. I think she's still going to have to, and I think ultimately, like, the reason that he had such a hard time with the kid putting on the mask is that not like he was like putting on whiteface or having to hide that he was black, but more so the idea that he is now at risk. Like he, the child is copying him. That could get out. Maybe like I see it more the other way, because like that is pretty powerful, the sense of, you losing your identity by covering up, by whitewashing yourself, right? And I think that would probably be more profound. So that's probably it. But the other thing that came to mind when you were talking about that is that it just occurred to me that even Captain Metropolis was ashamed of him being black. There's a little bit of that when the meeting first started, in terms of like, he didn't realize that that the person sitting in front of him was Hooded Justice. But more so when they're having sex or going back to it, it's the idea that he puts on his mask as if like, he's idolizing himself in this character, but then he asks for Will to put on the mask and, again, hide the fact that he's a black man. So I think that a case can be made that he is also ashamed that he's black.
We're dealing with the whitewashing of not only history, as we've seen with the portrayal of Bass Reeves, which is not a true depiction of history, because he carries out justice ambiguously, and then he justifies what he's just done through showing who he is by showcasing his identity and then showing the badge. So he is the Bass Reeves, the African-American, sheriff of blah, 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 Tulsa. Also, like, here's my badge. So this is who I am. This is who I'm with. And it just, and all the Caucasian crowd, claps. This is again, just like the Black Oklahoma and all of this Americana and all this over nostalgization and glamorification of past events and eras. It speaks to the same thing. I think putting on the mask is kind of just a metaphor and another form of whitewashing history, right? Like it's another form of being dishonest about what's happening. It's another form of condoning conforming to the status quo, as you guys have just said. We are going to switch to another meeting here in 5 minutes, guys. The way the video goes, you always be able to hear me. Sorry, it's the way it has to go for the audio. But and we will pick up at that right there. But I do want to touch on Angela waking up and having Lady Trieu there. I do have to just go ahead and speculate and saying she's going to be very on board with Lady Trieu. It just seems to be right. But does that mean Lady Trieu is right? Absolutely not. Hax, I want your thoughts in 1 minute. In 1 minute, my friend. Did you get the link? All right.
No, yep.
That's what we're gonna try to get an act break in here. If you guys don't know, yeah. So happening next on The Walking Dead.
Wow, we've already been going for a while. Oh, go Hax.
Yeah. So we will transfer over to the other meeting, and we should be all good. And you guys leave any comments or questions in the information below in the live chat as well, if you're with us as we speak. All right, we're transferring over. I apologize for this, guys. It is just something we are gonna have to do, and we should be good. All right, as long as everybody can see me, I think that we will be good. And there's Axel Foley. Axel, make sure to turn on your camera.
Hey, I'm here, guys.
There we go.
All right, so we're talking about overall what is going to happen when Angela wakes up, faces Trieu. Good, right?
Yes.
I don't think that Trieu is right. I ultimately think that she is evil, that her plan is for the betterment of humanity, but the form or the medium in which that takes is similar to Ozymandias, in which you kill a bunch of people and call it the greater good. I think that she's not going to be right on board. Well, man, I don't know. I think that maybe she is, and then later on we're going to have some internal conflict once she realizes the plan and is like the voice of reason, like, hey, we can't kill everybody. So maybe in the sense of that would be a better story, then yes, she is going to be on board when she wakes up. But I don't know. I feel like we didn't get enough scenes with Trieu and Will. Like there was no nostalgia that ever, for whatever reason, told the story of how they met and why Angela should trust this person. I think that maybe there could be a case made that she wakes up and sees this as like a saving grace, as opposed to being now in jail and captured by the FBI. But I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
Well, it's interesting to say that too, because we do have her husband come in when she's in that fugue state, and saying, blink your eyes if you can understand me. And he says who she is, right? She's got the kids. He's her husband. And that's in a direct conflict with who she is as far as where she comes from. you know. Who she's become is in direct conflict with where she's technically come from. That's why I really think it's interesting that there is this conflict with both wearing the mask, but also I don't think that it's I've stated this in live streams before, that we all hurt others a lot less and be a lot less willing to, drop bombs or go to war if everybody was connected, more. If everybody felt each other's feelings, we'd be a lot less likely to commit atrocities and do things that are egregious acts on people. But there seems to be a lot of cons for Will as well when he starts to, embrace that past and embrace that pain. We see him act out violently for the first time, over violently, when he goes in and he's shooting. Yes, they're all pieces of crap. I have no problem with him being dead, but let's face it, he was being a lot more vicious than he was before, even in the saving of those that couple. So we see the pros and cons of both, which I think is brilliant storytelling. But again, it makes it harder to really put your finger on where she'll be when she wakes up, right? Like, because we don't, like Hax said, we don't have a lot of evidence or information about what Trieu is looking to do. But Axel, do you think that by the very fact that Will is in league with Trieu and she knows this, experiencing Will's experiences, God, that's redundant, being immersed in his experiences, is that enough? Because it's like, she might feel like, hey, I trust this man. I've seen what he's been through.
I don't know. I think that we don't. What we know about Angela is she believes that the world is black and white, that there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. I think that as soon as she found out that Judd was hiding the Klansman hood in his closet, she immediately suspected him. She has been trying to run her own operation here. She thinks for herself. She finds out her own information. She doesn't seem to really trust anyone. I think that it's an overwhelming amount of information, especially when it's your grandfather. I think that she wears a mask for a very different reason than he did in this story, but maybe also with the anger for a very similar reason. I mean, think about her. She's Sister Knight. She's a nun. You know what I'm saying? It's not exactly a clean record. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot to be said for that as well. So ask some Catholic school kids. But
I was an altar boy, man. Never touched.
So was I.
Were you touched?
But I just think that it's an interesting parallel. And I think that it'd be a lot for her to take. But I think the part is that he did kill Judd. Mm-hmm. Now, Judd seemed to, though, be trying to tell him something, right? Like he said, like, you don't know me. But then he's like, no, I know you. You're about to mesmerize me. I'm not going to buy it. I'm mesmerizing you. So what Angela's feeling is on the agreement that Judd may have had with Keen, or how Judd viewed that agreement, is up for question about her relationship with Judd. But I think that that's going to be the part when he was referencing that he betrayed her. I think that's the part that he was referencing, and I think that that's the part that's going to, we'll wait to see how she reacts to it, but I don't think she's going to think taking justice into his hands like that is right. And again, it just makes me think, we jump from like the 40s to 2019, and Will's been around all this time. How many people has he been mesmerizing? But also, he really seemed to take a very hard, the way he killed everyone at the end, instead of just beat them up, he took a very hard route by any means necessary. How deep did that go?
Yeah, and I mean, we see I talked to Hax about this really quickly before. I wanted to know if he was shown, because he says that was his legacy, that clan suit. Judge said, that's my legacy. weird choice of words. Probably not the best when you're about to, get strung up there to say that clan suit is my legacy. I'd say, oh, that's an unfortunate part of my past. Not, hey, that's my legacy.
Yeah.
Like legacy tends to imply like, yeah, that's like a trophy in the high school. I got one more point. I wanted to know if he was shown instances of his ancestors past, meaning like he was nostalgized a little bit, or if it was the same technology. And I tend to lean with Hax, who said it's about the same thing that they saw in the movie theater. So it is just straight brainwashing. It's not being shamed in the straining yourself up, because I thought that might be an option here. That Judd, they showed what his grandfather did,
he's straight.
He's straight brainwashed.
He's had, but look what he's done too. Over this amount of time, that's not a projector or a guy speaking into a thing. He could just flash a flashlight in your eye and you do whatever he tells you to do. Who helped him with that? Was it Vite? Was it Trieu?
I know.
How did he develop it? I just start thinking like the Watchmen story is that I believe that he just retires at a certain point and decides not to do this anymore, and his identity is never found. Now, that's the role he plays in our story from the comics. I wonder, is there a hidden history there? How influential was he with our other Watchmen, with Vite, Ozymandias? What went on there? And what connections of people who are more expert in all of the extras that were included over time in the indexes and whatnot in the comic may know. Roberto, I think, would probably know. But that's interesting to me because there's such a jump of time.
Well, before I hand this over to Hax, I just want to say that I think that what we've seen of the forming of the Minuteman has been completely dirtied, has been completely tarnished, and we see Metropolis, and I think that somebody said that he is, what did you say in here, AK, that he is a...
discount Ozymandias.
He's a low rent.
Discount Ozymandias, yes, perfect. Lovely. And so we see that from the inception of them that this is an organization that is flawed. This is just like any other. It's just like the FBI. It's just like all the other institutions. The Minutemen were neither, noble nor evil. And it's just, again, it's skewed. It's very good storytelling because you can have an empathetic view once you see what happened in Tulsa. But I do believe that there's still the argument for how he behaves once he does. And I also think that the bomb was dropped that the baby he picked up is the woman that he's with, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that
Good
too. And then we'll give it on to you, Chess Master Hax. Your move on that one.
Like her name was Juno, correct? June. I forget, but yeah. I mean, I really don't think that there's more to that. Like I had maybe this idea that she was a plant there, or some kind of time travel issue where like the meteor that we see falling was actually falling at a different time, and that was actually them crash landing because like they inexplicably crashed the car. This baby inexplicably wrapped in an American flag, which was mentioned this episode.
I love this.
Yeah, like we never see the crash. We never see this baby in any of the scenes.
She's the Superman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, until he winds up in this field, awakens, and the detail that they describe that event for whatever reason, I think is also worth noting itself because it's describing it again. We, the audience, know that. We don't need for that to be described unless there's something more that we should be paying attention to.
I would add something. She's a writer, right?
Yes.
She what is a journalist, a writer? An essential part of the superhero is the legend, is the story, and how it's written and how it's crafted. And I would gather I would have thought that would have been a part of what she could have done, but it seems like she really does leave and there's no contact there.
Yeah.
So I don't think that she had a part of anything like that. I think more so she serves a purpose just as a strong character as his wife, and she just happened to be that girl.
She's an anchor to the past
Yeah,
as well.
but exactly. But that did seem, Hax, I like that you picked up on that, because that was a fantastical discovery in a way,
Yeah.
you know, even though we knew, though, we had seen her in the car when they get in the car.
Oh, she was there.
Yeah, she was in there. She was the other woman was holding her in the front seat, and then they put him in the back.
I missed that part. Yeah,
that's why I threw it to you.
But
Hax.
I still love your theory.
No, yeah, well, I threw it to you because I was like, do something else with this other than he's now, you know, Bane and that same person.
But it makes sense, though, right? That it does speak to his sexuality and the relationship that they had. And if she had known him all his life, she knew, right?
Yeah.
And so that was the compromise she made. That was the mask she wore. She was his beard, right? Yeah. So that's a mask. So there's another layer in there too. This was a great fucking episode.
Born out of chaos, you know. Was it neo-creationism? Yeah, I mean, again, ample proof for like both the advantageous and the detrimental side of wearing a mask and knowing everything and being so strongly connected to your past. I think that it's very interesting. Also, you know, as far as what her journey is, speaking about Sister Night, it is from here. She's definitely not going to be on the same page as she was before, and I think do you think this will bring her closer to Laurie or further, Hax?
Sister Night?
Yes,
definitely further.
I think
that at some point we're going to see, you know, them at odds, and then at some point further than that we're going to see them team up. Because like they're just two super strong characters that like somehow you want both of them to be the good guy. I think that, you know, maybe she wakes up, or like if the story goes that she wakes up at first and then, you know, is trusting of these people because of what they saw in this episode. And that goes until she realizes, oh, wait, she's trying to kill, you know, billions of people for the greater good of humanity, and then comes to her senses, then has to team up with Agent Blake to ultimately put an end to it. I think that could be a great story.
Yeah, I love it. I think that
would accomplish everything.
Well, there's something to be said too. We have all these different stories that we've been talking about, but we've been talking, and then we mentioned Will's wife and the role that she plays within even this story. But Angela and Laurie played much different roles in their own stories. And I think that there's something to be said for those two women realizing and looking around at the power structures, because Laurie doesn't trust anyone, right? Angela doesn't trust anyone. But I think that they both are good people, but they've been through, and Angela, we still don't really know about this accident that Cal mentioned, the circumstances of her parents' death.
Yeah.
So there's another story there too that's yet to be told.
Yeah.
We've seen a part of, we've seen now her father as a young boy.
What do y'all
thoughts on? Right. That was her father. You're right.
What are y'all's thoughts on the 7K after this episode?
Well, to top off what we were just talking about, yeah, it's always been my theory. I'll just do the True Detective whole shtick that I've always done. It's the different methodologies. You know, they're both good people. They both have goals that are decent. Methodology is different. They will merge. They will each learn a little bit off each other. It's a story as old as time. That's why it works. The 7th Cavalry, I have to believe that what we saw with the Cyclops symbolism and on the papers, that is, and now we've seen it on the painting. We've seen it.
It was last episode when he went into the hideout.
It's on the painting. I think this directly links that for sure. I mean, you don't got to be a Hax Dogma to pick up on that one. We'll wait to see what Hax says, but you know, it didn't take any investigation on my part to really see that the the actual origin, because we're all about, I mean, Lindelof, as you know, Axel, is all about the origin story. So this is also the origin story of the 7th Cavalry. So I have to believe that they were messing with this mind control, and now it has fallen into Will's hands, for better or worse. I have to say worse at this point. Seems like just using that at all is just not ethical by any means, whether or not you're using it against Nazis or Klan members or not. It shouldn't be.
I think it's okay.
Okay. Well, I'm not saying I want to, yeah, it is, but that's where you go down the wrong path of, they're bad people, so let's do evil in order to, have them get their comeuppance.
Sometimes you got to trick the trickster.
It's a slippery slope. Yeah, don't try to trick me. But no, I get it. Yeah, I get it. I think that it puts you in quite the difficult situation. Yeah, I'd have to say that 7th Cavalry, we've seen the origin story for it, but what is that spawned out of it? Because again, in the future timeline, the present timeline that we've seen up until this episode, we saw a total lack of discrimination against African Americans. Essentially, we haven't seen that being very prevalent. There wasn't a bias against African Americans in the current timeline per se. There is the 7th Cavalry, but overall in culture, you have Black Oklahoma. You have for the most part, a pretty progressive approach to it. I'm not saying everything's all great, but for the most part, I think they were trying to portray a time in which race wasn't really held as a huge conflict within these people. Yes, the 7th Cavalry is present, but they are more so the minority and the outliers. And you have the arts and you have the institutions that are being, half the force is African American. Then we see what just happened in this episode, where there's only one Black officer. We're seeing what we've experienced in our timeline. You know what I mean? I think it kind of just fills it. I'm not saying there wasn't anybody discriminated. Obviously,
no, I know what you.
There's a huge Klan movement. I'm not saying that there's no racism, people. I'm just saying that culture as a whole,
the power structure was reversed. Yes. But I think the lesson was that even though the power structure was reversed, people remained people.
Yes.
And the history and the experiences that they had manifested through everyday life and everyday interaction, regardless of whether there were referendations or not, right? And I think that I would disagree. I understand what your point is, though. I would say that I think it was a highly racialized society that they live in, and that had become the focus of the laws.
Not as overtly.
Well, I think it was. I mean, that had become it had obviously become a focus of the laws, and we're in Tulsa, and we see why that's the important place. Ida question is, they went back to Tulsa, right?
She does reference his wife, references.
Yeah, the wife says, so she brought Angela's dad back to Tulsa. So how did Angela's dad end up with his Vietnam?
Yeah.
In Vietnam? Was he drafted?
Ooh.
And that's how he ended up there?
Ooh, I like that.
Is that the story?
Yeah,
I can definitely
but
see it.
I understand where you're coming from, Justin. But I think that it's to me, it just showed that it's kind of like people are people. Like they were playing some of the old songs. Like I hear that old song.
Love blinds you. That was one of the songs. And that's totally true. That happens with him and Captain Metropolis. I think what it speaks to is that people are people, just like you say. People are racist, even in a society that doesn't exactly condone that, and then as overtly as it did before. People are homosexual in societies that do not condone that as overtly, meaning it's not the norm, whether or not they put on a mask to be who their true self is. There's a certain truth within that, and that truth is not always good, as we see with the Klansmen. I'm not saying that racism didn't exist. I'm saying that we saw a less overt representation in our current time frame with the power dynamic, and I think Lindelof did that on purpose.
And such,
yeah, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, obviously, guys, there's the 7th Cavalry that are just very, very racist. But again, I make the argument that there's people putting up with that racism in order to achieve, what's advantageous for them, such as.
That's the point, right? Yes. That's the real point.
What are you willing to put up with?
I think that within, just in the way that Keen was talking about, I had to come down here because these local yokels did this and blah, blah, blah. The way Captain Metropolis was like, Now, hold on a second. I have to stop him from talking about racial injustice just for a moment to introduce that we're sponsored by a bank. Like, and to think that, and then it's like, now here's who's really pulling the strings.
The most racist drawing of a black person ever.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And then that, we remember that was hanging in the trailer in the first episode when the guy bit the pill in that, whatever, I guess.
Ranch, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you feel about the 7th Cavalry, Hax?
Oh man, they oh god, I don't
have fun with it. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to say.
I think I'm in line with you. I think that there's people that are putting up with a whole lot of bad to get what they see as good.
I think that I could easily say something that makes it sound so bad, so I'm going to baby step through this, but I think that overall Cyclops is still around. They've maybe rebranded or called themselves something else, but like the federal agent said in that meeting, you know, they're the same people. They're the people with the cloaks, right? So I think that it doesn't matter. There's a hierarchy there. We see that when Keen is addressed and says, hey, you know, I was called down to take care of this group. Well, who's calling him? Well, with the introduction of these people, the Cyclops group, we now have this hierarchy. So who's above him? Who's making these calls? So on and so forth.
Hail Hydra.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Hail Hydra. I think that with all of that, with their history, be damned, if their goal is to stop millions and billions of people from dying, that they are the good guys. And I think that, you know, equally they started off as this hate group, and then Hooded Justice came and, you know, fucked them up, destroyed them, and then they probably included anti-hero group as well. You know, that may be something. So all of these years, they're still anti-hero, and this organization, the Trieu organization that is now aligned with Hooded Justice, being hero, you know, and the original, you know, save humanity plan of being a hero plan to drop a squid on New York for the betterment of humanity, you know, that they were against that, so they will be against this new plan, and thus still the good guys. Like,
no, but I'm with him, because if you look at it and that's what this show does. That's why I was so nervous about even. I was like, great episode to pick, Justin. I picked this because of the embargo, and I thought we did get a lot, but this is a lot of touchy subjects. It's like, okay, why is the homosexuality overt, but the race is not? What is this saying about that society? What is it saying about the norms, all the social norms? What is this saying? Because this is a pretty strong episode as far as overt racism. This is really heavy-handed stuff that I think a lot of far, you know, I'm not gonna even say it, but, you know, thought they were gonna get in the people that just read about it and hate it to without seeing it, say it's all this or that. They thought every episode would be what we've got in the memories. Sadly, what we got in the memories is truth. Like I said, truth isn't always good, but I'm in complete agreement with you, Hax, because from a storytelling sense, number one, and you've said this a million times before, as have I, it doesn't make no sense to make them your bad guy. You have to have a deeper truth to what their motivation is. You don't need to agree with it, but there has to be another layer. And again, they are for truth, for better or worse. The people behind it might be some piece of shit, this is my channel, piece of shit racist, but they're advocating for truth. In ambiguity, in cloaking of actions, of desires, actions, justice is not good. It is not good. A superhero is not a hero. It is a mass vigilante that only adds to, you know, is formed far more easily to whatever the agenda is of the time. Look at what we do to real history when people aren't wearing masks. They can't even tell you where Agincourt was. You know what I mean? Like, they form it to whatever they want. You put a mask on and make it ambiguous. Holy shit, can they have a field day with it? They're advocating for truth. When you have Looking Glass in the first episode asking the questions, do you believe in multi-dimensional blah, blah, blah? He is a advocate for the lie, whether he knows it's a lie or not. Again, this is good storytelling. It's an empathetic view on each character. It's hard to say because people are like, well, this guy likes those racists. No, not at all. This just happens to be a group of racists that, you know, they're advocating for truth. And I think
I guess I'm going to be the only rebel here who tells everyone that I want to tear it all down. But I understand where you're coming from. I think that there could be something said for perhaps using those people because they're easy to be manipulated and mesmerized.
I agree with
right?
that. Yeah.
The Klansmen.
The hate right there.
Yeah, it's easy to manipulate that, right? That's a base.
Hate
when you start out there,
emotion.
you're easily going to be manipulated into doing things. So then they say, okay, we need to do this, and the compromise is to keep humanity going, right? Mm-hmm. But that compromise includes systemic racism, homophobia, putting down women and such. And if that's what we're talking about here, this structure, and as with Will and Lady Trieu being in opposition to that, in the same way that Veidt was willing to sacrifice great amounts of people, right, for this lie, but he, in a sense, was doing the same thing for the compromise, right?
Yeah.
There's no good or bad here. There's no, within the confines of the constructs of race that we're talking about within our own history of this country and presently, of course, there are good people and there's right decisions and wrong decisions that lead to less people being harmed and freedom or whatever, as you're talking about. But what I think that this is really about is more along the lines of how you accept that power structure or try to reinvent it. And there's always going to be people trying to take it over and reinventing it. So I don't think that those people who achieve that, like Trieu, Veidt, Keene, I don't think any of them are heroes. I think maybe the only hero we have is Angela, or like a person like Looking Glass, who is a victim of this too, in a sense, but understands it. So I don't think they're going to turn out to be the good guys, just like I don't think Trieu is. Yeah. I don't think there's really the antagonist-protagonist relationship here is between a character like Angela and her family, which is about the community and love and something true, and those who with aspirations to control the power structure, who are always going to be bad.
Well, yeah, and I agree, but what we're presented here with you can't even have any arguments against the facts that Angela has now been presented with about her past. We're advocating for truth. Now, the truth includes their systemic racism. Their truth includes their small-mindedness and their ignorance. This is an advocate for truth. So are we going to continue on saying a lie that is a lie that saves lives or blah, 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 or stops people from fighting for this amount of time and jading and cloaking who people are or who they were? Are we going to accept what people were, how people acted, and how we depict and how we define what good is and what just is?
Right. And we have to do that as people.
With truth. So those advocating for truth might be systemic racists, but it's not going to condone their racism, but at least they're going to shine a light on what's really going on.
But I don't see where they're doing that.
The squid attack, they're messing with the
but that was Veidt. Veidt was this. They're against the squid attack.
Yes, they're uncovering the truth because they're.
I think that has more to do with conspiracy mindedness than it does with what What do you think, Hax? I think you're going to say something along that lines.
Yeah, so I think it all comes down to that. Like, I agree that this is. This is the morally gray of morally gray, but I think that the show is doing a really good job of making us believe that there's a lot of like even in this, like the idea of being a Nazi, right, is talked about, and what is more Nazi than the mass murder of people for a better humanity to come in. That they decide,
sure, cleansing for the new world.
Well, what about Stalin, right? Not to get into it, but that's a perfect example of what Hax is talking about, I believe.
Same thing.
Right? I mean, we don't talk much about Stalin, and what all except for the
I
good that
think
he can,
people
because
do. China, Cambodia.
well, I'm just saying, and John in the chat says, I think it's just showing how people get used and have hidden motivations. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean,
The mesmerizing.
yes. So what happens once we stop all that and we accept, because hooded justice carries out justice, but he can't do it in his own skin, must wear another skin. This leads him down to his desires. It has him pulled into a love relationship. It opens him up in so many ways.
It's the dark side, really.
But dark and good, because his true sexuality is able to come out. He feels safe. He feels safe under that mask, but then he's not a true representation, and thus it doesn't lead to a history or a linear timeline of progressive behaviors, because it's not the African-American homosexual that was doing good. It's this white German. You know what I mean?
There's got to be.
And I'm a goddamn white German, so I'm just saying.
No,
yeah.
That's a great point, though, is accepting growth, right? And that's part of history. We see that in our society, cancel culture, right? All this type of thing. Whereas he made these mistakes, and instead of, or not mistakes, he grew in that way, and he had to understand himself in a way that he sold himself out. He realized that. Is his reaction to that to then live a more truthful life or become a valiant masked hero? No, his answer is to become the mesmerizer, to become that which oppressed him, to shoot them all in the head, burn them all down, and take their weapons and use them against them. That very good. Is that a positive way for us to move forward? That's right. Yeah, exactly. That's why there's no. It's the old MLK versus Malcolm X, right? By any means necessary, or
overcorrecting situations. You know what I mean?
So I think it brings up a lot of interesting ideas, and it's cool that we're even sitting here talking about it. And this show has a lot of people talking. I think it's great stuff, man, and it goes so much deeper with the layers that they added to it. But I think now what's interesting to me, and you were bringing it up, is how Angela's going to react to all this, right? Because we see so much of that history, but we live now too. We live now, right? Like, what is she going to do now? How does she react to this? What's her answer? You talked about this, Justin, when the show first started, that one of the things that interested you is that you said that Damon said that this show is solving for race.
Yes.
And that is, and then he talked about it in the podcast, like it's entirely ambitious. It's not going to happen, but that's their goal.
Yes.
To look at all those angles. And I think that they're doing a damn good job of it by representing a true history, but juxtapositioning it within this comic book world, the structure. It's freaking awesome, man.
Absolutely, and beautifully said. And yeah, I mean, it comes down to, they talk about, what does that costume mean? What does it represent? All of this. I mean, I'm so conflicted after this episode. I'll be honest. I wish I would have done this after a different episode. I would have had clear answers, because I feel like I'm tiptoeing around, but not with you guys. It's not
about the answers. It's about the
questions and the journey. Yeah, and I'm all about that. But it's True. Like, Hax, how do you reconcile the use of this mesmerizing, whatever you want to call it, with the lesson that he learned was that hooded justice was not just, but now he like Axel said, man, it is about really good analysis right there, just totally flipped, right?
Yeah, I do want to touch on sorry, I had this thought, like the idea of race and the show overall. It blows my mind that people stopped watching the show after episode 1 because like it had a black lead and it was pandering. It was, SJW. Like, it blows my fucking mind that people hate this show. And I can't understand it. Like, I don't know. I just want to say that.
I will answer that because people tend to hate
people
being told
thinking
they're being told how to think, what to believe,
but that's art. I think.
They think they're being manipulated, and it's the way that this show, the buzz around it before, it was about race.
That's their choice.
And it is what it is, and it's the people. I do find that unfortunate, because I think the people that need their eyes opened the most are not looking at this show.
My theory
I
is
don't
that
know. I don't know.
my theory is that like the earlier review came in and there was like one reviewer that, you know, a lot of the right-leaning community goes to, and that one reviewer didn't like it and was like, fuck it, dude. And that's why like episode 1 comes out and everyone is so opinionated about this show. I'm like, man, you guys were really ready to fucking shit all over this show. Like, I didn't even have that many opinions about it other than like, wow, that was well written, and, you know, holy shit, what comes next? Like, I don't know.
Well, there is a little bit of a history here. Let's not forget, Hax, that
That's true.
4 or 5 months before the show premiered, Damon had a movie called The Hunt that he wrote with Nick Hughes that was pulled from the theaters because there was an outcry from Fox News and such, and then there was an outcry from mainstream, or whatever you're going to call it, about it for other reasons. Even the president said something about it. I think that there was already the things we see in this show, and the way that there are these communities, they've always existed, but the internet has, of course, given them a place to gather, as we gather here talking about this show. And I think that there is already, due to his work on Lost, The Leftovers, statements he's made, there was already a bit of a target on Damon's back when it came to this show. I think, if you ask me why he said there might only be one season of this, I think that had something to do with it. I mean, he's a human being. And if you had made a movie that was then like tweeted out that the president said it was terrible, and you might be a little worried about your career or what's going to happen or the response. So I think that that was a little bit of the history going into it. But I also think that we live in a climate where, as Justin said, there are actually companies who don't believe any of this stuff that's supposed to be good, and they try to sell it to us, and people are pushed away. And then you have people who genuinely do not want that to be America.
People are so ready not to be told what to do that they get told not to do that. You know what I mean?
This is what the show is bringing,
it's
right?
insane. They're so outraged about hypothetical outrage. They're so outraged about the left who gets outraged hypothetically too easily.
Yeah, but
and it is what it is. What I'm saying is that they are so, like, they're so determined not to be told what to do. And I've said this before, if you are so weak-minded that you feel that watching, even if it was propaganda, that you would just be steamrolled because you're some small-minded fool by whatever message that it was trying to, steamroll you with. I watch something, I absorb it, and then I take what I want, like information should be. I could watch pure propaganda and not become a Nazi. Okay, if you're that small-minded, then maybe you shouldn't watch it if you're that afraid. But it's so many people, like I said, being afraid they're being told how to think, that they get told not to watch this, so they have somebody else tell them how to think.
Well,
it's a goddamn paradox, man.
You sound just like Peaky talking about American Hero and Peaky Media.
I don't read that,
right? And that's why the show's awesome. Like, the issues we're talking about for a second, I was like Angela flipping between what we're talking about and the actual show, because that's exactly what we saw tonight when we were talking about the Minutemen sponsored by Bank of America or whatever, right? Like, that's what this is. This is the mask that people and organizations and structures wear. And what we really only have is the truth between each other. And that's why you should all watch Lost.
And I'm going to. And I'll say that what if superheroes represented other than belief systems and ideology, right? Since the beginning of time, they all represent, well, I mean, some are more overt than other. Captain America is pretty fucking obvious, but I don't know. Hax, big takeaways from this as far as what does it mean? Because in the end, with brass tacks, what does this mean when she wakes up, and how does this change what her motivations and goals are?
She's now been saved from the organization that has revealed that she has done things that they didn't want her to do. She's in captivity. So she has been freed from that. And that kind of, what's interesting is, like, I think that we're going to see how that happens. Because Will talks about how if she would have taken him in, then she would have, or they would have gotten him out regardless. So I think that we're going to see how she gets there. Firstly, I think that we're also going to see the. I don't know. I think that, yeah, she's on board. You know, she's been saved. She's going forth, but I think that there's going to be that twist where she realizes that their plan is their plan is not you know, for the betterment of humanity as much as they say that it is.
Yeah, Will didn't give her a blueprint for success. It's a blueprint for madness, essentially.
Yeah. And something else I wanted to talk about a second ago is the one of the newsletters talked about a Nazi gathering in like 20,000 Nazis showed up in Madison Square Garden. Did you catch that?
Yes.
Did you know that was a real thing?
Yeah, no, yeah, there's a few.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I really wanted us to see that because this has been done in a couple shows, you know, and it's like you see the Madison Square Garden, you know, filled to the brim with like a 30-foot George Washington statue and American flags and Nazi flags stand by side. You're right in the middle of New York, and I just thought that was such a powerful moment that they maybe missed an opportunity to show that here. But you know, they mentioned it.
No, yeah, absolutely. We tend to believe that we're like we're absolved of all that, and we're not susceptible to it. But after World War I, when we, you know, especially you can see it in Europe because they went and fought and they came back to, yes, you had the you know, the Weimar Republic and all that, Weimar Republic, and you had all of these like the jazz era, but that was very short lived, and then things went to shit. So everybody felt like they did everything right. Farmers made their farms better. They took out loans to improve what they did, and everybody just toppled. So a man of action sprung, and that's what fascism is. It's all about, you know, the ghost in the closet, the monster in the closet, fear mongering, and all this. We were just as susceptible after the you know, the crash on the market, and after you know, years and years of having nothing, because we felt that there wasn't just an issue with what was happening. There was an issue with the institution that we depended on. Like, things fell apart because everything was done right. We won the war. You know what I mean? We made things better. We have now become more capable to create things at a faster pace, more, you know, economically, more proficient at everything that you can speak of, and now we're still in the shitter. So there has to be a deeper problem. In fascism, that's how it takes hold. That's how it takes hold in Italy, Scotland, almost Britain, with Oswald Mosley. Look into him, huge piece of shit. And it's, yeah, I really think that is a missed opportunity because we tend to absolve ourselves from that.
Yeah.
Quite.
I think it'd be such a powerful moment for the show.
And it's a good little lesson too. It shouldn't be just shameful. It should just be like, okay, because again, people were just looking for, they didn't want communism. What was the answer to that? You know, this fascism. It's like men of action, men that are going to get something done. I'm a man of action and all that. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. And it's just, they're tough conversations, man. They're tough conversations to have, and having that that insight into what your past really is, as far as like your actual ancestors, what people that are connected to you have done, what you do based upon the conditioning of the society you live in. These are all things being approached, and they're tough topics to tackle because there are no straightforward answers. It's tough to say that there's an empathetic point of view for the 7th Cavalry, but there is one. It doesn't mean you're condoning racism. It just means you understand that those people think they should be doing what they're doing. That's all. You understand a fool thinks they should be a fool. That's it. You know, and it's not, but it's a tough topic to talk about. It's one that I don't feel comfortable talking about, but I still will, you know. And again, like, very good point. Yeah, Madison Square Garden, people, is filled to the brim. Should we have shame? No. Should we be aware of it? Probably, because, you know, we don't want to see what could have happened if it would have went just a little bit the other way, you know, if things are a little bit worse.
It's also kind of like, you know, knowledge is a virus, right? Mm-hmm. It's like something that I think we can distance ourselves from and just like put it on the other side of the world. And like, you know, we had reservations about getting into this war at all because, you know, that wasn't our stance. Like, it was their problem. It was the other world's problem. You know, the fact that it was here. Yeah, overall, I mean, that's just my point. Just seeing that and seeing it done by this team of showrunners would have been freaking beautiful, I think. Or maybe even just like, maybe even retcon what actually happens, and then just like hooded justice burns the whole place to the ground. Or I don't know. But you still with us, Justin?
Oh, did we lose Justin? Oh, I guess we lost Justin.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, oh, he's back. Well, can I? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, now while I was going,
sorry.
I was going through this. I was trying to give you. I could tell I was trying to give you a little. All right. What I was going to say is, after what we've seen tonight, I'd like to ask you guys what you think about Lady Trieu's intentions, based upon we see how hardcore Will is. Did she know what he was doing with Judd? Is that part of their whole plan? Is that a connection now that we see between Lady Trieu and Vite or whatever, and this stuff that could affect millions of people, and what the cavalry is doing in Tulsa, what Keen is doing with the teleporting devices? Any new theories or anything? Hax, Justin, either of you? I'll ask Hax.
I am stuck on nostalgia squidfall theory. I think that, or weaponized nostalgia theory. Like, I think that, they full force deploy it. Millennium Clock is, maybe a giant antenna or a bridge. But overall, like the way we get, humanity 2.0 is, do it again, kill a bunch of people and say it's for the greater good of humanity.
Some people can handle it. Some people can't, right? Yeah, again, a type of psychological torture for some. For others, it won't be.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of I'm so against making anything taboo, meaning withholding anything and taking anything off the table for discussion, because I believe that is just how we don't progress as humans. So this again, cloaking of what's happening, as far as Judd goes and his death, obviously Will wanted him to die, and Will is in league with Lady Trieu. Thus, we must come to the conclusion that is a part of their master plan. Is their master plan good? Is it bad? Is it going to come to fruition? We don't know. We don't even know what their intention is, other than it needs Judd to die. So what happens after Judd dies? We're led to believe that Senator Keen takes a more active role within the 7th Cavalry, right? And it brings Lori to town. Those are the actions that happen as a result of this. So we have to go off of.
Oh man, I just got a crazy theory.
Do it.
Okay. All right. Will and Lady Trieu are mesmerizing Keen.
Oh.
They're in control of Keen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it seems like there was like a different crew working on the teleportation devices, and the stuff going on and killing Judd gives them a reason to bring it moves the pieces for them. And what it does is it brings everyone to Tulsa, including Lori, for what I can't remember. Somebody on our show was talking about Hax. It might have been you and I who were talking about it. The ultimate revenge plot that they get to. She is revenge for Vietnam. He is revenge for Black America, right? The Black experience in America. And maybe they're trying to take out Vite. Maybe that is Vite that landed. They brought him in from Dr. Manhattan, maybe Dr. Manhattan. And maybe it's both things. They take them out and in some way release the memories of the ancestors into everyone, making us face our own racial histories, mm-hmm. and our own, more than that too, our own histories. And we go from there. And it's like an ultimate.
Let's face it, all of our histories are racial histories, for better or
on
worse.
Vite too.
Yeah, no,
revenge on Vite, because because Will, let's not forget that Will stays in New York.
Yeah.
So was he there during the Squidfall? Did someone die? You know what I mean? We still don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of time that we have to figure out.
Yeah, the only thing that I don't like about that is it takes agency away from Keen, and it takes
I like that though. That's fine with me because I think that he is really, I mean, in the context of the story.
No, I see how it can work.
Yeah, he's not. He's not so deep. We're not really finding out stuff about him.
Yeah, rich white dude. I think we got it.
Yeah, exactly, and but there's a reason for that. Think?
Yeah, he's been like ever since he first appeared. He has just creeped me out, man. Like I don't know what it is. His smile.
He's great.
That's Bob it's good. From Mad Men, man. That's the way Bob is.
Did you ever see his first big role on Fox? It was a show called I think it was called Lone Star. He played a traveling salesman who had 2 different wives and lives, and you find out about it at the end of the episode. And it was a great, I can't remember who wrote it. The guy later went on to do some good stuff, but it was fantastic. And the critics loved it. Everyone was like, this is the best show. And it was canceled after like 2 episodes. Mm-hmm. They pulled it off the air. Nobody watched it, but he played that's kind of his thing in acting. Is he has that kind of
that look. He's off-putting. Yeah. Bob in Mad Men is the yes man, and he's actually a closeted homosexual who wants, because of his careerism, wants to marry Joan to keep up the facade.
Not great, Bob.
Yeah, but Bob is creepy to everybody as well. Bob in Mad Men, the character he plays, like he's over willing, you know what I mean? Overreaching.
Yeah, dude, yes.
He's always got a coffee for you. He's always that smiling guy. He's that guy that's too good to be true. He's like, oh, what's up with this fucking guy? He's all nice and shit, smiling at me. You motherfucker. What is your fucking plan? Yeah.
Speaking of the actor, does anyone know the name of the actor who played Will?
No.
For most of the episode?
No. My wife brought that up and was like, he was really good. And
he was great.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen him in things before. Like he's not. I just don't know the name.
I can't remember what I saw him in. I'm forgetting.
Was Lawrence Fishburne the lieutenant? Am I mistaken on that? The one that says this is like, he said, I'm doing this because he doesn't get the whole good luck.
No. When the white captain won't give
passes him, and then the lieutenant. Yeah.
No, I don't think that was, no.
Okay.
But the guy who played Captain Metropolis, I think, was the guy from Geek, right? And that actor, did you ever see that? Oh, Greek, not Geek, Greek on ABC Family. I love that show.
Yeah.
No, nobody?
No.
Yeah. Not crickets.
I'm not the ABC Family guy. Well, I think, no.
That was Greek a fun show. Yeah. Greek. I said Geek, but it's Greek. He was on that show. He was great. He was big, too. Will too. He was a big, it was a different actor when he put on the robe and the outfit and everything. And then in the end too, it's like he becomes bigger. Is it just me, or I have to watch it again? I only watched it once, but did you guys notice that?
Like him as the superhero became bigger?
Yeah. Like he physically, he was larger.
Oh, I did not notice that.
Like if you go back and watch it when he's just got his cop uniform on, or he's at home with his wife, or in other scenes, but then when he goes into action, he is like 3 times bigger.
Yeah, it's probably the way in which they frame the shot, which you should, and also the presence.
I mean, they could put stuff on him, but I think
the way you carry yourself, even, you know what I mean? The way he's carrying himself.
I got to watch it again.
Yeah, no, I think that it's probably filmed to depict exactly what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
The aspect ratio is probably totally suited for that, to make him larger than life. Go ahead.
I do want to jump in real fast. I've thought of this like 2 minutes ago when you guys were talking. I didn't want to interrupt, but in terms of American Hero Story, and this idea of using film as a mesmerizing thing. The whole world is now watching American Hero Story. Mm-hmm. What if all of that is actually how we get to the point of humanity 2.0. It's not nostalgia rain or anything like that. It's literally what we just watched. It's
it's so meta on top of meta.
You mean like they're doing? It was so popular. I don't know if you guys, like in the 70s, where they like try to intercut subliminal messages into. Is that what you talking about? That kind of thing?
No, I mean, like, just weaponized film, just like the same way the mesmerizing flashlight works.
Yes.
You know,
well, that's the media, right? And that's I
think it's a metaphor for it, for sure. I think.
Well, how about nostalgia? The whole idea of the superheroes and the nostalgia. Look at our culture. Star Wars.
It's nostalgicizing things. As soon as
everybody looks to the past. We have computers that we can talk to each other in a blink of an eye, and we all sit around talking about how great shit was in 1984. It's kind of depressing.
Well, like I've said before, the Old West was nothing but syphilis in a short life, in a slow death on that short life.
Come on, man. Game of Thrones, they didn't even have running toilets.
Yeah, so it is it is yearning for the time that never took place, and it is turning something into, and that's the cloaking of
onward,
the cloaking of identity and the concealment of actions and urges is only that's what I said. Even if you get a straightforward look, I've said this before, the Constitution of the United States is formed into whatever the fuck people want it to be. That seems pretty boilerplate. That seems pretty straightforward, but no, we can mold that to whatever. You start masking things and cloaking things about it, oh man, that's silly putty. That's sillier than silly putty. You know what I mean? That's just whatever you want.
Did you take some nostalgia pills, Justin?
It is what it is, man. I mean, they can take a document that straight up just says like pretty straightforward stuff, and they're like, well, that's not what that means. You know what I mean? Like, you start putting a mask on that, and you start making it a little bit more ambiguous. Shit,
that's the histories that are created, right? It's
who, why, and where.
Yeah.
Right? So the Cyclops, right? So the Cyclops symbol, we saw it last episode when they were in the abandoned department store, or scribbled on the wall. From that first image, I thought that maybe they were trying to link this group and Trieu, because we also see them pull out the Trieu case from back of the car. Because like, if you think about what that Millennium Clock looks like in rotation, I mean, it's, gyroscopic. It's going to be circling each other and, looking all cool. But it kind of would make an eye. And I mean.
Well, maybe they took it. Well, how about this?
The Cyclops is a position within the clan.
How about that's the mask, right? Is our Lady Trieu and Will is their mask. Did they take it over? That's why I like the mesmerizing keen thing. Like, are they behind what's going on behind the Calvary the whole time? And the whole thing with Judd and this whole compromise and whatnot was really them biding their time for maybe Vite to get back, or right? Like just like she knew when something was going to hit, the clock's got to go off at this point.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen. So the whole thing was a mask, like you're talking about. They were obfuscating, and in the end, they allowed all this stuff to happen. The White Knight, all that stuff could have been orchestrated by them.
Yeah, I honestly
their greater goal.
I definitely see that. Like, I am on board with that, because Trieu always gives the sense that she knows what's going to happen. It is a fucking ballsy big dick move to go into someone's house, offer them $8 billion and a biological son, and have exactly 3 minutes worth of sand in a custom carved hourglass, and know that something is about to land in that time after they have successfully persuaded those people. Like, I mean, she knows the future. I mean, maybe we don't have enough to say that definitely, but just the way she walks and talks, she is ahead of the game. And I wouldn't doubt if this is all, she is Ford in Westworld. She is puppeteer, knows all, and allows it to happen because ultimately it benefits her.
Yeah, it's taking information, and it's knowing this, like this this stronger sense of truth, right? That we're speaking about, like this more pure truth, this honesty about past and present, and in her case future, and still deciding to use tactics that are not truthful, that are not honest, that manipulate people for their own benefit. Now it could be
the story of Watchmen.
And that is the story of Watchmen. that is Vite, and that is him. They are just dropping the squid in a different way. It's all about thinking you know what's best. It's hubris, like you said with Ford. It's the destruction of humanity by hubris, by people that thinking they know better and using these tactics.
Ambition.
Yes, it's like we think that we can learn all the answers to everything and then fix the world. It's like, no, our truth is what we see as truth. What we see as good is how we've been conditioned to see good and all this. And I think he's playing off all that, the conditioning. What happens once somebody is conditioned, as now we see Angela being, essentially, with the further experience of her ancestors, not just knowing what happened, but feeling what happened. And there's a conditioning that goes along with that. So there's an argument for the positive and the negative of that. And it's an overwhelming sense of truth that isn't advantageous in all senses, but people tend to use it to whatever they seem fit for the world. You know what I mean? She obviously has her own bones to pick because of what happened in Vietnam, and she holds other things. It's too much power. And I think it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's got us thinking, man. It's got us thinking about, hey, how could the 7th Cavalry not completely be pieces of shit? That's a pretty hard thing to achieve in a story. It's like, hey, how can the Klan not all be pieces of shit? Like, that's something to be said for that writing right there. That's a achievement. They should get an Oscar.
Well, I think they still are, but it's
we're not condoning again the behavior, but we're looking.
Hey, look at this. We talked about this. I think on one of the earlier shows, like when they show Nixonville, that doesn't look like a good place to live. Those people don't look like anybody is supporting them or helping. They're regardless of what type of constructs a society decides to form, there are people who will be on the bottom and people who will be on the top, the way we're currently forming them, right? Yeah. And you see that in that town too. And the way that they're treated, just all brought in and basically tortured until they admit that they are or are not a part of this group because they fit the bill. We've seen that before, right? Stop and frisk or whatever. I mean, that's not good. And Angela was partaking in that. She tortured a guy. He gave her the right information, but do you think that always happened? Did she always, right? So there's choices that are being made by everyone here. And even though Angela is our hero, she's partaken in this structure as well.
She's the story,
And she was against when Judd said, let's bring out the guns, she was against it, just like Panda Bear.
Well, yeah, like I said to you off air after the first episode, Axel, like how we're pretty progressive people. We're pretty liberal. I brought up how I wish they would have been more incognito, more cloak and dagger, which kind of is really kind of feeding into this whole storyline now and making me question that approach about the publicity.
Mesmerize?
No, publicity around the show. I wish it wouldn't. I said to you, I wish they wouldn't have been so overt about what he was tackling, even though I agree with it, because I feel that we're losing the eyes that I feel it would benefit to have on this show.
But that's the truth.
And you said the truth, and I said something along the lines of the truth about us all being equal is self-evident to the forefathers. They wrote that in there, and they still disregarded it. So just because you know the truth doesn't mean you do what's right. You know what I mean? And it's been since the beginning of the time. We think dropping truth bombs is going to change everything, right? But no, dropping a giant squid in fear-mongering tends to be a lot more effective than saying, hey, we know what's right, let's do what's right. Everybody's, well, isn't there that squid that might be coming? Isn't there that ticking bomb that might be coming that pushes us to this conclusion? That because it's very inconvenient in a lot of senses to look at hard truths. So, like I said, self-evident.
I guess ultimately it comes down to, was it worth it? Was dropping a squid to kill 3 million people actually the better way to go? Like, Wade believes so, the society believes so, but right now, if we had to decide if 3 million people died in our world or all of us died, I mean,
Oh, if it's
I
us,
think
then no.
I think all of us would say, yeah, kill 3 million people. Like that is nowhere near 8 billion people. Like 3 million people could die for the betterment of humanity.
It's a
But
utilitarian approach to it. Yeah.
you know what? Also, though, I think and that's a great point. But I think what is lost sometimes in the comic too is that Veidt created the circumstances that led to that, to Nixon and World War III almost happening. He was a part of that. You know, he propagated Dr. Manhattan and worked with him and was so it was not as if Veidt was this sterling guy and said, hey, I guess I have to kill the circumstances. And that's, again, part of that, like you're saying, just in the obfuscation, the hiding of truth.
Yeah, and I think that, and we'll close it up in a minute here, that, hey, look, Zoom loves our truth so much that they actually extended our meeting so we didn't have to switch. They gave me a message. Yeah, they're trying.
Thanks, Zoom.
Yeah, we're not giving you money, Zoom. Let's see if it turns off. But anyways, I think that, what we're dealing with here now is a situation with how does Ozymandias play into this, and what do we take away from this? Now we have again a conflict that has been present with Laurie and Angela, and now we have a conflict with the 7th Cavalry. That is, the dynamic has changed within. It seems like it's going to be more 7th Cavalry versus Lady Trieu. Pick your poison. Does Veidt come in here and offer a third option? Because let's remember what you're just talking about, Axel. He wants credit in that video. You're president because of what I did. Because there's a hubris there. There is all this because of what I did. So he didn't do this because he's a humanitarian or just took a utilitarian approach, which is the whole trolley metaphor, which Hax was talking about. And trust me, Hax, don't feel alone on that. I admitted to Axel right away. I think when I first read the graphic novels or watched them on YouTube, I was like, I kind of get it. I'm kind of down with that. I feel like a piece of shit, but I'm kind of like, hey, no problem there. You know what I mean? But it's interesting that, he wants credit. It's not like, it's not like, just look at what I did for you. Remember, you're only in power because of me. Remember this. So I guess we'll end it with theories and speculation. And Axel does not watch the future episode preview because he does it for his podcast. So he has not watched it. He said he did not care about spoilers before this. It did touch on that a little bit. We are going to see the trial of Ozymandias versus the game warden. So a lot of people's ways of life are being put to test. We got you there.
The whole I really think that it could be something like even him, like maybe Veidt or maybe Trieu came in with Will and has taken over this project through that mesmerizing technology, so perhaps that he's in some kind of trance right now doing these things, seeing what they want him to see for whatever reason, but I really can't shake this idea that maybe Ozymandias is a clone. Cloning has been such a thing in this series. We see it as with people, we see it with dogs. It's constantly shoved down our throats, and there has to be a reason for it. And I think that reason could be the big reveal that the Veidt we're seeing is just one of many. And he's supposed to be working on a project. He has then abandoned that. His paradise is turned to prison, and he's trying to escape. The game warden is there to act as that checks and balances, that if this version if this clone Veidt acts up, then he can either get back in line and keep working on an unknown project, or he can be killed and a new clone grown and him replaced. Like, I don't know why, but that seems so, intense. I could see it happen.
Well, let me pose this to you, because this comes down to wants and needs, right? What does he want? All we know he wants right now is to leave the room that he's locked in. Let's brass tacks it. Whether it's on Mars, whether it's Utopia, whatever moon you want to say he's traveling to, I don't really care. He's in a room. He wants out. Was he put in the room by his own volition? I don't know. He wants out of it. So who is he likely to side with once he gets out of it? What does he want to do, and what does he need to do?
Here's the thing. I think that the person that could that put him in there may be the real Ozymandias.
Mhm.
Like, if not the real Ozymandias, the Vite, because she took over everything. Like, this could all be that 30-year plan that he talked about, and it going full throttle. Like, I don't know, when he talks about your god and a male god at that abandoning you, I think everyone goes, okay, it's Dr. Manhattan, but Ozymandias believes himself greater than most people, so that is godly as well.
Absolutely. Do you think that the Doomsday Clock, the timer on that, has anything to do with the time frame in which he's working upon, meaning like he feels he needs to hit it at that time, or do you think that's all just contrived?
I think that's
like, does he have to meet, like, get out of the room according to the Doomsday Clock? Is that something he's working against? Or is that because there's so much, meta commentary here and there's so many reasons to fearmonger? Like, does that it all coexist with each other?
I think that the Ozymandias we see in the video talking about this grand plan does not align with the Ozymandias we see on this, desert biome, or not deserted biome, talking as he is talking. Like, he is very much not doing what he's supposed to be doing, trying to escape this place that he went to. And I don't know. I don't see, like, isolation is a fucking fascinating subject in terms of like the human psyche and what it does to you. But I don't think that that's the story this show is trying to say. I think that would put Ozymandias in a lesser light, showing that he is weak because he is succumbing to human-like things, which again he considers himself above, and that they wouldn't do that. They would do something, like him being the god that created all of this for his genius master plan. And whether that is also being aligned with Trieu, or he is going to be destroyed to show how powerful Trieu actually is in the end. I think both could equally happen.
Yeah, absolutely. What makes somebody a god? Somebody that creates the physical earth, or the actual society environment in which we live in. And he's definitely molded that society. So in his own right, he's a god. Trieu is definitely in their own right a god. Axel, your thoughts? Ozymandias, is he coming back to? I think everybody's trying to save the day, right? In their own way. To be fair.
Tomorrow
just looks different to everybody.
I don't know. I mean, my thought is that he had a part in putting himself there. He said he thought it was going to be a paradise. I mean, Dr. Manhattan seems to be the only one that could create something like that. I kind of like this revenge thing of trying to get everybody to come back. And I kind of like the idea that was him that landed there finally, and he got out. And maybe Trieu was tricking him, mesmerizing him. But then I also like the idea that she's his clone, or that there's many clones, or that he's being played this time. I'd like to see him being the one who's played this time, the smartest man in the world. Yeah. I don't think that Dr. Manhattan or Vite are heroes in any way. And if they get some comeuppance for the events that happened in the comic and how the world is at this point, perhaps they deserve it. In the end, though, I think that the thing I'm really concerned about, I kind of hone in on Angela and what's going to happen to the real people. And maybe this time around, these big baddies will be overcome by the truth that you keep on talking about so eloquently there, Justin.
Well, it would make sense, and thank you, that, okay, so Angela has now seen the past. She lives in the present, and let's give her the opportunity to forge the future. Mm-hmm. Who could give her this?
To infinity and beyond.
There we go. Ozymandias or Lady Trieu. They both have similar traits. That's why I have to think that, meaning their abilities are similar. So I think their motivation and goals have to be separate. If they're in line, that's just like, hey, buddy, I didn't know my other pal that's a freaking, a master at genetic engineering was going to come. They share a lot of the same qualities, so I think they will be opposing in belief system and in motivation. So I think that if you're going to go ahead and try to solve for race and tell a story about, the down and trodden, the set aside, the objectified, then the best way to tell it is the way they're telling it through Angela's story. We've seen the past, we've seen the present. Now let's give her mission control. Let's put her at the helm and see what she does. So she has to make a decision that deeply affects one of their plans, if not puts her in complete control, as Will has taken control with this machine. And I love what Hax says, because I think it works both on like an actual technical level, and I think it also works as like a meta thing, like about how, programming as American heroes, not horror story, tells us, in all this. But it's true, we're conditioned through our art. Art is a direct reflection of culture. Culture is a direct reflection of art, vice versa.
Can I say something along those lines, Justin?
Mm-hmm.
One thing I was struck by, there often people talk about his story, right? As in male, his story. Mm. And that's called American hero story. Yeah. Right? Like maybe what we're going to see is her story. I mean, we have a female lead here, I think, and, with Laurie too. I'm looking for that team up, man. I think that's where we're headed, bringing the old and the new together.
Yes.
And Laurie's the girl with the brick. So let's see where that brick lands, baby.
Exactly. Throw it up in the air and it doesn't come down. And you wait for the next joke to tell the punchline. It's always the best one. That's the little brick joke they did in the first one. But yeah, I love it.
Kills God.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was definitely an interesting. I'll tell you what, I liked the episode a lot. It gives me a lot to think about. It does exactly what the series is supposed to do. Is it the episode I wanted to do this before the dust settles after? No, but it's not the series that I thought I wanted, but it was the episode that I thought I needed. Is my point. To get all sappy about it. But yeah, I think we all would have liked a little bit of B story and all of that, but that wasn't what it was about. And I'm giving Lindelof his due. I think he's on course, man. He's got 4 more episodes, and I totally see that as plausible for him to stick.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good. They should hire him to make a TV show.
I say the guy's got guts, all right? He's got some gusto.
He's good.
This freaking Lindelof guy talking about race, all right? He's a little bit of a fanook, but he's all right. All right, I like the fella. So maybe I'll give Lost a try. So yeah, no, I can't thank you guys enough for coming on. Hax always crafting your beautiful theories. Axel always tackling the issues right off the bat in the podcast forum. Daily DVR bringing you Watchmen. Did I get that log line right?
Yeah, whatever. Sometimes I say Daily DVR dives into Watchmen or does Watchmen. It started from, I thought it would sound kind of funny and more Veronica Mars-ish to say Daily DVR does Veronica Mars. You've watched Veronica Mars, you know that she's always making sexual window jokes.
Yeah.
So I just kind of took it to does Watchmen. But whatever you say sounds good to me, Justin Thomas of Top Shelf Fandom.
Let me flicker a light in your eyes real quick.
Are we just going to skip over the fact that, Justin, you haven't seen Lost yet?
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
I've explained this a million times. I have seen it.
He didn't hear the truth is what happened.
I was in a little something called the School of Second City, Detroit, where I took acting lessons in playwright. And my writing teacher told me, that's where I get all my pretentiousness from, that it had no proper antagonists and that it was that it was all, they didn't know what they were doing. It was a clear example of sloppy.
And that's why they're still
teaching. I was 20 years old. I was 20 years old, and I was like, yeah, you're damn right it was. So I only watched like 3 episodes on Netflix, so I was conditioned against it, and I'm giving it it's
funny that like that was the thing that stands out to you as like one of the things that this professor specifically said, like there's no protagonist, like in Lost, like I guess
no proper antagonist was set up because of the others.
The proper antagonist.
Well, that person misunderstood the show.
I was 20 years old, man. My virgin eyes.
But no. I mean, it speaks to the fact that like professors are teaching that, But in reality, I mean, think about most shows. Think about this show. There is no proper antagonist. Like, we don't know if the fucking people that are racist as shit are the bad guys or good guys, you know? Like, I mean,
Oh, absolutely. And I'm totally with you now. My eyes are now open, my friend. I see the light, and I've been
You're
there for
unmesmerized.
yeah, you know,
I say we write emails to your professor.
Let's
stop
do it.
calling him a professor. Number one,
Let's
he was the guy that talked.
cancel Justin's professor.
Well,
Yes.
Keegan Michael Key was a professor, not a professor. Stop calling him a professor. Don't even give him that due. He was a teacher there. So you take a series of courses, and then you can get on main stage Second City. So no, that was more play production and stuff like that. So it was just like a simple class where we'd write like you do like just workshops, you know what I mean? You do workshop ideas and stuff like that, and you learn what a writing room is like. So
oh my god, I feel like I just took a nostalgia pill of Justin's.
But he was an epitome of like failure. I mean, I just do it on YouTube, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. So
hey, a lot of people had an issue with Lost, but it's worth watching, and I think you'll very much enjoy it.
I've talked to you, and I posed this, proposed this idea to you a few times about like an idea that we watch it. I do a rewatch, and we talk about every episode, and it's like,
yeah, I know, but then I gotta man. If I do a rewatch, I gotta do it with Solo, or I gotta do it with my kid, because that's who I promised.
Yeah, I'm trying to right the wrong. I'm trying to fix my life by watching, because I
might come on. I'll come on for a few episodes. You could do like what Jack's doing, where you bring different people on for every episode, and they can tell you. You can start out the first 20 minutes, then telling you, why haven't you watched Lost already?
Yeah, well, I'm still breaking down the Die Hard, adaptation, and Fugitive being an adaptation for Jeb Stewart for the new Vikings Valhalla series. So I tend to take too far of a deep dive on these series and not get a video out soon enough. So Lost is something I definitely, because I appreciate questions far more than I appreciate answers these days. The philosophical is much more mesmerizing to me, and I definitely can find myself satisfied by the unknown, just knowing that nobody has an answer. I don't expect it. So, the professor over there at Second City, Detroit, should be called like 18th City at best. The don't drink our water city. But anyways, yeah, it was a fun time. Yeah, I live there.
Not their fault.
It's clearly their fault. Sorry, it was melting mortars, like actual car
parts. No, I mean the people.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm only damning the institution.
I gotta say, what's up to Mike and Otis, our friends in Detroit?
Yeah, no, I got friends in
Shout
Detroit.
out.
Yeah, no, they're good people. I can't thank you guys enough. And I saw in one of your last videos, Hax, somebody was like, man, I really wish you could come right away with some of these theories. I know it's probably a lot of work or something like that. So I thought this would be a perfect show. It's like, nah, it's easy. He just does it. But I thought it'd be great to have you on, and hopefully we'll bust out some. We haven't signed contracts yet, but I'm gonna push for the Westworld, because I do believe that Watchmen is a series that was tailor made for this type of after show. Something other than was it Buzz, whatever that YouTube channel is that they do every show ever made.
Buzz Lightyear?
It might as well be. It's terrible.
After Buzz.
After Buzz. Yeah. Oh man, do they got shows covered? Yeah, they got it. So yeah, go look into it. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, if any final pitches, blah, 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 shameless shout outs, see what's going on here. Tim Hines stopped by with some good points, a affiliate, a daily DVR, and a boy of mine.
Another week, a podcast with DJ Timothy Hines, Worth and Ready. It's the best. You got to listen to it. They talk about funny stuff.
There you
Subscribe. That's my shout out.
Unrelated, there's 2 AfterBuzz TV live streams going on. One for reality TV and wrestling and sports.
Yeah, doesn't that say it all?
What is this company?
Doesn't that say it all?
They've been around for a long time. When I did TV Talk, and that was 2010 or something, or that was 2000, maybe 12. They were around then. Yeah, they do like every show.
Yeah, fascinating.
They are.
I think someone. Not, I wouldn't say famous, but someone of note that you'd know their name had something to do with the start of that. I can't remember who it was.
They make BuzzFeed look like the Smithsonian, dude. Okay. It is honestly, it's like, do you watch TV? Oh, okay.
I've never heard
of
an episode.
They're terrible. It's just like,
I don't know.
Ivar really brought it this episode of Vikings. Man, was he hacking and slashing and giving us that excellent action we need. And it's, yeah, it was just...
It's like the American Hero Story version.
You're giving them too much credit again. Too much credit.
We're the truth, Justin. They're American Hero Story.
If you want to work for Buzz, whatever the hell it is, it is literally...
How much are they paying? I'll do a podcast.
I'll do it. I mean, if they got... I'm not saying I won't sell out in a fucking millisecond, but at least
this whole show is sponsored by a bank.
Honestly, actually, that reminds me, bonus VPN. No, they actually are a decent company, guys. Please, the link in the information, not the comments below. But honestly, they don't take your credit card, and it's 2 gigs of a VPN. And if you're not even worried about security, which Hax will tell you, you should be.
You should be.
Yeah, you honestly should be, especially if you use like Starbucks security or internet and so forth, the network, public networks. But I really use it and utilize, and the reason they approach me is because I watch a lot of things on BVT and stuff like that, and I use the iPlayer, and I'm able to access United Kingdom's VPN. I'm able to go over, say I'm in Great Britain, I'm able to watch their shows when they air, watch Peaky Blinders way before you plebs watch it over here in the States. And it's awesome. So they give you 2 gigs, and they don't run off that business model that's like, hey, let's hope they forget to not unsubscribe or discontinue the service. They don't take any information other than your email. Go ahead, get 2 gigs for free right now. You want to watch South Park on Netflix again? Go have a ball over in Great Britain. They got it on there. You want to watch Rick and Morty like a few weeks after the episodes air with no commercials? Great Britain's got that going on. Go ahead and check it out. The VPN's better than it's not just a security utility. It's something that can be used to access content that you are not privy to. So I highly recommend it. And if you're over in Britain, check out United States of America's Netflix. It'll blow your fucking mind, baby. It's the United States. Woo! So and Hax works in security, and he'll tell you, why do you think he's not on camera? Because he knows they gotcha.
Yeah, government.
They are measuring how quick you move your mouse for your health insurance. I'm not even joking. Hax, can you confirm that? They are doing the dexterity and how much you move your mouse to see how much they're going to charge you for life insurance now. Like, they're selling that data. Like, I've been typing in, did too many push-ups today. Should I be worried? Never had a cough. Should I be worried? Keep getting older, but keep getting stronger. Should I be worried? Instead of like, what's this mark on my back? Symptoms of AIDS, symptoms of cancer. Don't put in that stuff. I get you. Yeah. You gotta be serious, guys. Start typing in better stuff for your health. Be like, oh man, I did 100 push-ups today. Was barely even tired. Should I be concerned? And then move your mouse like a madman. And no, they seriously are selling that information. Hax, back me up on some of it at least.
Do you want me to back you up? Because I'll back you up. I don't know how much of that is factual, but
that is factual. Please just blindly back me up. No, they are seriously using the optics on how much you move your mouse and how quick you use your keystrokes to sell to health insurance and life insurance.
I wouldn't doubt it, because they're trying to mesmerize, baby.
Thank you, Axel. Hax, just a little something here. I'm on the verge of crazy. There you go.
I mean, there are similar things, but I don't know if we're that far down the biometric scanning.
Yeah, no, yeah. So he confirms it, guys. He just used vernacular you're not familiar with. So we'll just go ahead and go with that. And daily DVR, of course, cufflinks.com. I'm not even sponsored by them, baby, and I love it. And Hax Dogma. When are you gonna get when is Hax Dogma gonna go corporate? When is it gonna be Hax Dogma of America?
See, I'm not like you guys. I would never sell my soul to
sponsored by Kevin Smith's Dogma.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Whenever someone approaches me,
I'm ready. I'm sponsoring Hax. Daily Hax Dogma.
Dude, thanks.
There you go. The dog food company came by. They're giving me the big bucks. So off the rails. Just another week. No paranoia. No, I'm not I'm fine with it. I'm just saying I've just adapted the way I search Google or any type of health website, stuff like that. So no, I heard it on Joe Rogan's podcast. You know it's legit. So we need Watchmen cufflinks merch. That is true. Tell them about it, Axel. Hacksaw sponsoring. I can think of something better than that, but until then, that is your go-to right there.
I like it.
Yeah, Hacksaw sponsoring right there. Hacksaw Jim Duggan for you. Thank you guys for coming on, and we will see. When is Westworld is going to be? I'm assuming it's probably going to be April
of 2020.
Yeah.
Really, that soon?
I could see it. It would. Make
I thought it wasn't going to be till the fall.
They could.
I thought they were working on another show or something, but I don't know.
If it's not April, then it will be the fall.
Yeah, I thought it was early spring.
They must have shot a lot of it already, but it's got a lot of VXF work.
Yeah. Visual effects people. Little pro tip for you. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. So yeah, only 8 episodes, and I think that's a void of confidence right there, because they know that they have to tell a certain story. They're not taking any liberties or any extensions and trying to be like, oh, you don't know who Dolores really is. We're gonna draw this out for 4 more episodes than we need. So 8 episodes.
No, yeah, I think it's not gonna. It's like a no mystery season.
They know what they want to do. They're gonna get to the point.
Yeah.
Which one's Dolores?
I don't remember.
Yeah, it is. You never know.
I think she was Silk Spectre 3.
There you go.
Silk Spectre, yeah.
Yeah, there you guys go. Chew on that for a while. Move those mouses quickly. Use bonus VPN. Get yourself a nice tie from Cufflinks and get yourself one of those Hax Dogma saws. We'll see you guys soon.